After a long, hard fight, Republicans retain their congressional control. And the big question now, what direction can we expect for the legislature under President Trump? Well, here to weigh in, managing editor of the Washington Free Beacon, Aaron McClain, and Democratic Ohio State Senator Capri Cafaro. Good morning, you guys. We made it. We are here.
Can't believe it.
Can you believe this? All right, Aaron, so we've been talking so much about Donald Trump winning, but there's some other big implications here. You now have a Republican-controlled Senate and the House. I just asked my producer, the last time we had this happen was 1928, where Republicans were in control across the board. Somewhat of unknown territory here, isn't it?
Well, we had George W. Bush, who enjoyed a friendly Congress there, and of course we have a Republican Supreme Court right now too. So we are in uncharted waters. There's precedent for this, but I think the different thing for Trump is that he's a uniquely polarizing figure within the party. So there are a number of different ways this could go. I think probably the most likely is if Trump decides to govern along the relatively conservative policy lines that he's laid out in his campaign. He's going to get a lot of that stuff passed, right? If we're talking about rolling Obamacare back, if we're talking about tax cuts, if we're talking about relatively conventional Republican platform items, I think he's going to meet with a lot of success with that. If he decides that now that he's been elected, he no longer needs to adopt that platform, then a lot of different things could happen.
Yeah, because Capri, you compare it to the past 8 years, where so little has gotten done with a divided Congress, to the points that Aaron was mentioning, things that could get passed. You think about changes in Obamacare, of course, the economy, but also the Supreme Court. That has been, for some people, the #1 issue this election cycle.
Absolutely. And Democrats and Republicans alike, I think, really thought about the power of the president in selecting the next Supreme Court nominee. And obviously, with the Senate being part of the majority governing party for the White House, I think that obviously a President-elect Trump, soon to be President Trump in January of 2017, will have success in getting his nominees, whether it is the Supreme Court justices or judges on federal judges on lower federal courts, appellate courts, for example. Those things are going to go forward, I think, without a hitch. But you know, to my colleague's point, I think that there is going to be some nuances here. You are going to see, I think, you know, the Obamacare issues, the regulatory reform, and those sort of things being passed. But when you think about other issues, for example, trade in particular, that has been the #1, I think, dividing line between the populist economic message of Trump, not to mention the 35% tariff issues that he talked about, and some of the more traditional Republican ideology when it comes to the economy.
Yeah, you know, there were many folks that predicted, Aaron, that this would go to the Democrats, the Senate. When you look down the board at really, it was a clean sweep for Republicans, other than maybe Nevada. You look at Senator Ron Johnson versus Russ Feingold. That was in Wisconsin. Florida, Marco Rubio. In Ohio, of course, you had Rob Portman there. And another big one, Todd Young beat Evan Bayh. That one was a really close one in Indiana. Did any of these surprise you?
I mean, to be frank, no individual race surprised me. I think the aggregate certainly surprises me. I am surprised at how well Republicans have done overall in a year where the math was so tough for them, where they were defending a couple of dozen Senate seats. Democrats only had to hold on to, I think the number was 10, and it's really just a remarkable victory. It's hard to say, you know, a week ago it would have been hard to say, you know, are Marco Rubio's coattails pulling Donald Trump, or Donald Trump's coattails pulling Marco Rubio? I think at this point it's pretty clear that Trump had a positive effect for the Republican ballot in the Senate.
Speak to that, Capri, because you look at this now, and there seemed to have been a real disconnect between the mainstream media and how maybe Hollywood and others were talking about this, and the rest of the country and how they were feeling.
No question about that. I mean, you know, seeing the fact that I'm a little bit, you know, closer, I think, maybe to the people than others that might be on TV all the time, you know, representing 330,000 people in northeastern Ohio, I'm not entirely surprised with the victory of Donald Trump. I do think that, you know, the fact that it was so decisive, the fact that we know definitively that he is going to be the next president of the United States, and the fact that there has been so much across the board, you know, I think just discussed with Washington, a desire for change, a desire for something new, and that really, I think, pulled a lot of these other Republicans across the finish line in the United States Senate.
Yeah, well, they certainly spoke last night. A new chapter for this country. We'll see how it all plays out. Aaron Capri, good to see you this morning. A historic day.
Thank you so much.